Our next speaker, Sherma Joseph, has been an accreditation officer at the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago since 2012, where she has also led in the role of Acting Director of Accreditation and Quality Enhancement. Ms. Joseph's lifelong passion for education took her across the education sector, from primary to tertiary level. Ms. Joseph's 35-year career is best exemplified by fulfilling experiences as a curriculum facilitator in both the public and private sectors, curriculum development specialist, testing and evaluation officer with responsibility for items, writing test development and standard settings for national tests in Trinidad and Tobago, textbook evaluator and assistant to the regional coordinator for the pre-service teacher training programs in Trinidad and Tobago. Let us welcome Sherma Joseph as she helps us to understand more about micro-credentialing.
Sorry about that. My video cannot be started at this time. Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Lovely to see you. And our presentations are definitely very well linked. I'd like to thank all of you for being here. It's not on yet. Okay, that's okay. And when I saw the topic, I thought, wow, this is such a broad topic. It's so relevant. Let me see how I would be able to take you through in 30 minutes some of what I am thinking about micro-credentialing. And to do that, thought to have a few focuses in defining the term micro-credential, quality assuring micro-credentials, because as you would see that my present day job, that's what I call it, is in quality assurance of higher education. Building 21st century skills and the value of qualification frameworks in this whole discussion of micro-credentials and some possibilities. So what are micro-credentials? I remember the first time, and I didn't know the term micro-credentials. It was probably called short course then. I would say about 2009 is my first recollection of me doing a micro-credential. And it was to do with development of learning and so on, and development of societies in small and developing states, run by, I can't even remember the organization. But these courses are short, and they really focus on skills and knowledge and emerging practices. They are stackable, or they may be stackable, and they may also provide a pathway to a certificate or a full degree now or whenever the participant is ready. Sorry, right, good. UNESCO has defined, and you know, this is the fourth definition. UNESCO has defined micro-credentials, and I want to read it because there are so many points in here. It's a record of focused learning achievement, verified what the learner knows, understands, and can do. This matters further down when we look at the qualifications framework relevant to Trinidad and Tobago, and which is quite similar in its thrust to other qualifications frameworks. And it includes an assessment based on clearly defined standards and is awarded by a trusted provider. So the question is, how do you determine trust? It has standalone value and may also contribute to a complement other micro-credentials or macro-credentials, meaning terminal qualifications, including through recognition of prior learning. And it meets the standards required by relevant quality assurance. Therefore, UNESCO is admitting that in order to provide this element of trust, it must be satisfy the requirements of the quality assurance agency. So what is the value of micro-credentials for teachers in particular? Because this is the focus of this group. The month in 2017 states that rather, and this is a direct quote, that micro-credentials are appealing because they break down complex instructional skills into fundamental parts that are bite-sized, and that teachers can choose which skill or which parts of a skill would benefit their professional practice. And then they can demonstrate their competency by providing evidence of what they know and they can do. I keep stressing the can-do element of the interaction in the micro-credential. Quality matters. We would like to think that if I have done a qualification, and let me not say qualification, some sort of learning endeavor, even a micro-credential, then it must be of high quality. How do we determine that it's of a high quality? Is it portable? Can I carry it across borders? Can it be transferred to a different sector? Can I transfer it to a terminal qualification? Is it industry focused and in demand? Therefore, can it add to my job prospect? Is it quality assured? And is it assessed? Now, I am a fan of, and you'll see there's a slide just devoted to some of my fan websites. In terms of, I'm very interested, and I tell people I troll through Coursera and Call and Udemy and so on and edX routinely. And what you've realized is that the two tracks the most of their courses. You can do it to get a certificate of participation, or you can pay, let's say on Coursera, $40 and get a certificate. And it will be part of, and you can join an entire suite that may be accumulated to a terminal qualification or a significant part thereof. So quality matters. There's an external quality assurance viewpoint of micro-credentials. Are they stackable, non-stackable, or both? So the micro-credential will have to be very clearly stated in terms of its scope, the integrity, the fidelity to terminal qualifications. This matters when we come to the national qualifications frameworks or qualifications frameworks. The design, is it online or in person? I settled on online examples because of the nature of this body, but there could be a micro-credential or a short course that is in person. What are the standards related to micro-credentialing? Are there fees attached? Is it cross-border? At what level is this micro-credential pitched? What is the support for learning, and who is staffing? Who is the especially academic staff on this micro-credential? And we can look at the case of ENQA, which is the European Association of Quality Assurance in Higher Education. And ENQA is a conglomeration of a number of about 4 or 5 European external quality assurance agencies. And what they have looked at is that there is this drive for flexible, inclusive learning opportunities. My camera is still disabled. Micro-credentials, according to ENQA, are loosely defined as the record of learning outcomes that a learner has acquired following a small volume of learning. They do not really define what they mean as small volume, but a small volume of learning. What we do recognize is that ENQA does not, and UNESCO does too, ENQA does not make a distinction between short and professional course and micro-credential. ENQA says, as long as it's a short, fairly small volume of learning, it is a micro-credential, right? So this is in Europe. We would need in the Caribbean or in our fraternity, if we choose to separate it as UNESCO has done, we would need to decide what are our definitions. The learning outcomes will have to be assessed against transparent or fairly defined criteria, which is standard for education, to provide the learner with specific knowledge, skills, and competencies that respond to societal, personal, cultural, or local labor market needs. Micro-credentials are owned by the learner and can be shared and are portable. So that's what ENQA is saying they are. They, as I said before, they include any short educational endeavor. There's a concern for the integrity of the program development, because what we have been finding is that we have providers who choose to, you have a bachelor's in education, let us say, and we would like to do a micro-credential. They take the course, let's, for example, say school development and planning, and take a chunk of that course and call it a micro-credential. And the question is that really a micro-credential, or is it a module of a program? ENQA is also very concerned with transferability. Is it stackable or non-stackable? The participant must be made aware of all the scope and function of the micro-credential that they're going to engage in. If it's non-stackable and the participant has decided that they really would like credit for this micro-credential once completed, and they think it's stackable, then there's a problem, because they can't use it past this point. So the public, the participants, must be aware. Viewpoints from the literature. I don't want us walking away from this and thinking that micro-credentials will solve all our ills, and that there are no naysayers. There are some naysayers for micro-credentialing. Bailey and Belfield speak about there being no statistical significant impact of stackable credentials on wages. So it does not really impact on someone's wage. Sorry, that name always gets me. Some 41% of graduates with short-term certificates were unemployed, and those who were employed, 39% reported that their job was not related to their credential. So we can say it's possible that a stackable micro-credential doesn't matter. However, Baum et al., most studies using national survey data on adults show that those who have completed certificates of any length 10 to 20% more, earn 10 to 20% more in labor market than high school graduates. So what we can say is that yes, there is an effect. What is that effect, and how we can make that effect work for us as teachers is the question. Wheelahan and Moody in 2022 and I find that their writing is very, I don't want to say unbalanced, but their writing sways towards being critical of micro-credentials. So we need to pay attention to Wheelahan and Moody. And they say, micro-credentials raise several problems. They seek to change the supply of educational qualifications or credentials to solve a problem of demand for labor. And they reorient higher education from educational purposes to employment purposes. And I think we need to guard ourselves against that. It is not just racking up a lot of micro-credentials and saying, I'm qualified, and therefore I need employment. But it's more about engaging in the skills, knowledge, and behaviors to ensure that the educational system improves. Okay? So what is the usefulness of micro-credentials in all of that? We can look at micro-credentials for recertification. Now, this is an important topic because within the Caribbean, I think, save and except for Jamaica, teaching is not licensed. Therefore, the recertification or certification at all may be a moot point. And the more I thought about it for teachers, in the absence of licensure, what do we do? And Ms. Doyle touched on it a bit when she was speaking about what happens at schools and individuals, and I will go into it soon. We can look at retooling, using micro-credentials for retooling, and I use that a lot in my practice. Sometimes I register for micro-credential, not so much for the certificate, but to really see what's new. Or to get a different perspective. I tell people I am a UE graduate. UE literally, let's say 75, 80% of my higher education has been for the University of West Indies, St. Augustine. Therefore, if I see a micro-credential being run by University of Miami, I'm going to take it, even if it's in a field that I have spent a lot of time in, because I would like to see what is University of Miami saying about the same thing. Staff and professional development. Ms. Doyle spoke about that. We can really seek to use micro-credentials to improve what our staff knows and is able to do. And also individuals can seek to their own professional development. Remuneration increments. Now, teachers in Trinidad are always, how should I put it? It's a huge part of conversation. Increments. Is it an increment? Do we get an increment because we've survived one more year of the classroom? Or shouldn't there be remuneration based on not only performance, but some sort of added qualification that has been self-directed? Promotion, similarly so. When we look at staff performance, performance management, is self-directed learning part of our getting our box 4 and 5 and all of that? Professional development units. Can we use these PDUs that are calculated based on the time spent within the micro-credential or any kind of short course? Can we accumulate those for some sort of credit? How can micro-credentials be used for a higher level program, education program? If I've done 10 micro-credentials, does it equate in a particular area? Does it equate to getting credit for one course of a higher level program? Alignment with teacher professionalization standards. We do not have those yet. that will come again with licensure. And all of this, I think for me, the greatest usefulness is in building this community of professional practitioners. I tell people my last 3 years in the classroom was one of my most rewarding stays in the classroom. I love teaching, but you know what happened? I was put to teach a second year class. So children between 6 to, let us say, 7, 8. And I was put to teach. I probably had like 15, 20 years service by then, but I'd never taught at that level, although I had taught at the early childhood early childhood care and education level. And I was put to teach with a very vibrant teacher who had spent most of her years at that level. And we team teached. So we would switch class, we would collaborate in what we were going to teach. If I was buying classroom equipment, I would buy for her class. So the classes were duplicates, but approximate in terms of our personal energies were still displayed in the classroom. And that was my most productive 3 years. And that sold me on the whole notion of this community of professional practice. Let's switch gears a little bit. One of the points that your theme would like raised is also, okay, good. I think I can put my camera on now. No, still not. Okay. Is the whole notion of 21st century skills. Micro-credentials, high quality ones, allow teachers to show proficiency in job-embedded discrete skills or competency by submitting evidence that is then assessed against defined evaluation criteria. When embedded as part of a comprehensive system of professional learning, micro-credentials can empower teachers to learn and demonstrate timely, relevant knowledge and skills that immediately help them in their classroom and in their career. But what are these skills specifically? We can find some explanation in the whole notion of 21st century skills, which are, it's a concept for the knowledge, skills, and attitudes citizens need to be able to fully participate in and contribute to the knowledge of society. So it's about societal development. It's not about self-actualization. It's more about transformation of the society. It's very postmodernistic. This need is mostly attributed to the changes in society, and more particularly to rapid development of technology and its impact on the way people live, work, and learn. And Ms. Doyle just now, she spoke about some of the skills, and it is supported here, that these skills are collaboration, communication, ICT literacy, social and cultural competencies. So it centers more around what we will call the social emotional learning skills, rather than knowledge and understanding or application. And qualifications frameworks mention these in this way. So I'm going to switch again to qualifications frameworks. Qualifications frameworks, and this may be new to some of you, qualifications frameworks are instruments for the development, classification, and recognition of skills, knowledge, and competencies, along with a continuum of agreed levels. External quality assurance agencies around the world have published qualifications frameworks. The Curriculum Qualifications Framework was approved in 2012. In 2012 or 2011 even, the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago, because it's enshrined in the act that governs the Accreditation Council, Chapter 3906, was bound to develop, they called it a unified credit framework. We now have a national qualifications framework of Trinidad and Tobago NQFTT, and it's a communications and reforming framework that represents both academic and technical vocational educational endeavors. It's communications because we looked at what exists in our context, Trinidad and Tobago, but we also asked the question, what do we need to propel us towards our people acquiring these 21st century skills? And how can our programs seek to ensure through direct teaching, through activities, that this is so? So it was developed by the Accreditation Council in collaboration with the National Training Agency of Trinidad and Tobago over a 9-year period. It was approved in 2020 by the Ministry of Education, Trinidad and Tobago, and forms part of the National Development Strategy 2016-2023 and the Education Policy 2017 to 2020. I think it's supposed to be 2016-2030. Sorry about that. I feel I've put this time instead of another time. So the structure of the NQFTT, it's on our website. I can put a link later into the chat for the NQFTT so you can get to see the abridged version of the documentation. And the outcomes in the NQFTT matrix spans 5 different areas of competence, areas of learning. It was never defined what these 5 areas, what is the umbrella term for these 5 areas, because we could never come up with it. But it's a 10-level framework that works from 4 levels of certificate to the doctoral level. And it offers outcomes in each of these 5 areas of learning, areas of understanding, areas of endeavor, whichever one you would like to use. I've put knowledge and understanding and application and practice in green. It's not expressed like that in the framework, in green, because these are the areas when we did an analysis of a sample of programs across a number of institutions that exist today. These are some of the, sorry, yeah, I'm trying to get my time. Okay. Oh. Okay. These are already enshrined. It is the 3 columns to the right that programs are deficient, and these are the social, emotional skill learning areas. So therefore, we have to look at this, and it matters for micro-credentials because, sorry, let me go make this point and then go forward. Because the micro-credentials, how are we sure that someone with a short program, a short course, is developing these valid skills that are the central part of our 21st century skills? This becomes very, very clear. And then we have the Sustainable Development Goals. I think everyone is very familiar with the SDGs. There are 17 of them that really, and they're supposed to be achieved by 2030, which is 6 years from now. Are we there yet? Have we gone, because they have been, in essence, more than, since 2015. So therefore, we are more than halfway in the period, the duration in which the skills were supposed to be achieved. Are we there yet? One of the things I've noted is that in a lot of literature, people take skills. So they take skill 1, which is poverty alleviation. They take SDG 17. They take SDG 4. But a system And an action cannot be relevant only to one skill, because the skills are collective and cohesive, they are interconnected, and therefore quality education occurs in contexts. And these contexts are layered and they are complex. SDG 4, I'm going to focus on it here because this is where I saw us. It went to girls and boys, equal access, gender disparities, and I thought, where are we? Then it went on to learners acquiring knowledge, skills needed, and I'm like, okay, but how are these learners going to acquire knowledge and skills? They can acquire it in some homes through the action of the home. But many of our children will acquire the skills and knowledge from us, the teacher. And I did not see us. And then finally, the last action on SDG 4 said, by 2030, substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers through international cooperation, and Ms. Doyle mentioned that, for teacher training in developed countries, especially least developed countries and small island developing states, the SIDS. And this is where micro-credentials can help. So in order to do that, how can we increase this supply of not teachers, not any old teacher, but qualified teacher, qualified, quality teacher, high quality teacher, high quality skills, knowledge, and behavior. Teacher professionalism and professionalization. Hargreaves in 2000 talks about professionalism, which is being a professional. So we have a lot of codes of conduct and all sorts of things like that. But then there is professionalization, which speaks to how this group is viewed and compared to other established professional sets of workers like doctors and lawyers. And when I came into I started in the government sector in 1990, and we were talking about that. And we are still talking about teachers as professionals, which speaks to the whole notion of, the first one is more about self-efficacy, but professionalization is commingled with this whole notion of the general efficacious behaviors of teachers as a group. So Hargreaves says that there are 4 phases of professionalism, and I highlighted the last phase because I really want us to be there. I really want us to be in this post-modern age of professionalism, professional development. And I don't want us to go too far and have a huge discussion right with me now. We can probably do it after. In which age or which phase are we in? But the question is more, how can micro-credentials propel us to this 4th phase? So Ms. Doyle, again, she spoke about this. We can look at responses. There's a systemic response. Ministries, departments, divisions of education, the government. All right. How is the government arranging to have this professionalism, use of micro-credentials? I've never been a good fan of waiting for ministries and governments and so on. And I always felt that unions and professional bodies have a huge role to play in this endeavor. In Trinidad and Tobago, the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association represents primary and secondary school teachers. I'm not sure that they represent ECC student, teachers as yet. I know there was a thrust towards it. I'm not sure what happened with it. But this union in particular also puts itself forward as a professional body. This is a time we can help. This is a time when we can say, let's use micro-credentials. But it's the how. Districts and pockets. I put pockets because there was a time districts were developed, were further divided into pockets.
Ms.
And
Joseph,
yes, 5
could
more
I
minutes.
interrupt you? Yes.
No problem. I'm trying
Okay.
to go quick. Yeah. I think I can. Yeah, I can do it. Interest groups, external stakeholders. I am, how should I put it? An advocate for parents as stakeholders. Some of my most fruitful times when I was in the classroom has been with parents, in terms of them offering me support through advice. And I'm saying advice. I always taught in schools where the children did not come from how should I put it? Professional homes. So they would offer me advice from their viewpoint, and it was always spot on. Miss, if you just teach this a little bit more, and how about if you, and they can advocate for us. They can tell us, from their viewpoint, what do we need to do? Requirements for continued employment. And I think of the denominational boards. I'm going to make a fairly controversial statement. A teacher coming out of a Bachelor of Education degree ought not to be just placed in a classroom. There should be some more control over the development of the teacher. The denominational boards, the teachers in the government secular schools, it is harder to regulate this. But certainly with denominational boards, they can make a statement that, listen, once you've been employed, you need to do these courses, these micro-credentials that will help. We will work with you. And this is where it gets to the school and classroom adaptations. Study groups, formally organized and informally developed professional learning groups or communities. These cannot be mandated by the government. These are germane to different contexts. Professional memberships. It is vastly important that we as professionals talk and commune with other professionals. Conferences, peer teaching. I spoke already about my experience with that, peer teaching, and individuals as professionals. It is not only that the school and the principal, but the individual teacher as a professional can seek to improve and therefore improve his or her efficacious behaviors. So, how do you produce? This was a question long before. High quality micro-credentials. It must meet the criteria and standards of the external quality assurance agencies or the Ministry of Education, wherever the responsibility lies. There must be policies and procedures regarding the offer of micro-credentials, the development of micro-credentials, the internal approvals for them. How relevant are they to the context? Is there stakeholder analysis and acceptance of the micro-credential? That must be said. And some possibilities. And I think that's probably almost my last slide. Some possibilities. No. Again, I'm a fan. I just only found the first one, the National Education Association. Which is a American organization with a bank of certification. I am moving my way through it, but there are about 20 areas, one of them being assessment, literacy, and so on. So you can look. All of these are clickable links, so you can see it after. Coursera, the link I've put there is a specific course in teacher social emotional learning. edX, another one of my my favorites. Harvard Online traditionally has been There are no free courses that I can think of. So you might have to spend some money. Commonwealth of Learning, this is generally free. And then there's Udemy. So what's next? What can we do? There must be rigorous external and school quality assurance systems. There must be relations to national or regional qualifications and credit frameworks. Better capture of the different types of programs and courses in trace and cohort studies, because we would need to know this micro-credential has been run. Has it been beneficial to our system? Have we seen any gains? Staff and professional development for design, development, and implementation and support in the absence of licensure for teachers. If there is no licensure for teachers, therefore, it is that staff and professional development action that becomes inbuilt to ensure that it is quality. Equity and access by various constituents. It's not some teachers get to do the micro-credential and some don't. And finally, we must develop an ecosystem. This ecosystem is part and parcel of the professional learning community and groups, and it will be able to ensure that there's consistency across the sector. With that, I've left you some readings. And with that, I say thank you.